Great. Okay. So just tell us a bit, I'm astounded by how organizations have responded to COVID and lockdown. And the stuff that you are doing, I think is absolutely fascinating. So I'd love to know, how has COVID and how have lockdown impacted on you?
It certainly impacted us greatly at sort of Formula One on a sort of very simple level. We've obviously looked at the safety of the F1 teams, our F1 kind of family, the people that work for us, and the sort of communities that we visit. And clearly we haven't been able to go racing. And so that sort of impact has been sort of huge because it's affected thousands of people from not being able to fulfill their jobs. But also at the same time, we know how powerful live sports is to the millions of fans without the world. So they've also sort of been going without that. And so we've really sort of faced into the challenges presented us as a business. And we've actually sort of predominantly focusing in two areas. One of the sort of first areas was to really sort of utilize the highly skilled and talented workforce within Formula One. And they genuinely are some of the cleverest kind of people I've had the sort of privilege to work alongside. And these sort of engineers, data analysts have literally come together as a sort of united family. And I think what's really incredible is just the sort of power of human spirit here, because typically these are teams that compete against each other for millimeters gain on track. And yet, we found ourselves in a position when we actually couldn't go racing, but the most important race for us as a collective was to come together and actually to join the race to help save life and to really answer the direct call from the UK government to have some support from skilled workers in actually being able to build breathing aids and ventilators. And it's been phenomenal to see the skill set and the sort of innovation and technology within Formula One at its kind of very best. And two examples for me was the speed at which a breathing aid was able to be reverse engineered in 100 hours and approved for production by the government and the health officials, and an order placed for 10,000 units to support the NHS.
That's amazing.
Which is incredible. And the second example was we have seven F1 teams based in the UK. And they also came together and over a period of sort of 2 weeks, were able to, again, take open source engineering plans and to have prototypes built and approved and 10,000 ventilators ordered by the government for the NHS as well. So it's been phenomenal to see how typically competitive engineering teams have come together. And I think that's the power of human spirit and actually community in wanting to give back and to do the right thing. And then I think on the other side of it, recognizing the power that sport plays to people's psychology, and that sort of release and that entertainment is, despite being unable to race, we've actually changed and had a real focus on virtual racing. So for every weekend when we would have had a real Grand Prix, we've actually hosted a virtual Grand Prix. And so just that notion of still having an element of racing, and being able to use our F1 drivers to pull in other athletes and sports players to participate and take part, I think has still provided a sort of beacon of hope and actually a sense of sort of release for people during this kind of very difficult time.
You know what I love about what you say is, well, many things. Firstly, is that you really recognize the extent and the depth and the value of your resources, and that's your people. And I really love the fact that you've gone, okay, these are the resources we have. We're going to respond to this direct call by putting them to work in the thing that they already do well. But at the same time, you haven't abandoned the other stuff that you do, which is entertain people through sport. So you've gone, okay, well, that's what they're going to do, but we're also going to continue to run the events, but we're going to do that differently.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you've protected both aspects of yourself, the excellence in engineering and the excellence in sporting entertainment. And both of those are being satisfied, even though actually you would think that, you know, lockdown and COVID and the regulations around it would make it impossible.
I always think it's very much about how you sort of frame things, and clearly what's happening to everyone within the world. I mean, it's the greatest sort of emergency I think we've ever faced as a planet, certainly, both health and economically. But I think the way that you frame the situation that you're in, you can choose to see opportunity. And I think it's how you can essentially still maintain your purpose, but face into something. And I think when you have that alignment internally, then actually you can start to do things very, very quickly that previously, had you maybe said that in a board meeting, it'd be like, there's no way we can do that in 2 weeks. Absolutely no way. We don't have the resources. We haven't got the budget. And yet you find yourself within a situation that's being created, of which you've had no sort of impact. And actually people respond very, very quickly, and you will iterate to find those improvements. But the most important thing is you actually react and you do something.
I love that. And I think the amount of focus and the speed with which you've responded puts paid to our old normal ways of working, where you have to go through so many processes in order to make a decision, and there's so many processes in order to realize it. You've bypassed all of that and still come up with quality product. I think that's, that if I were to take some messages from what you're saying, that's glaring. And the second thing I hear, and this is fascinating because I think it cuts right across the genres, is how people have stopped being competitive, as we were in the mindset to be around Brexit, which happened not long before this. They've moved from competitive to community, and I've seen that happen a lot. But for you to be talking about it in a competitive world, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. And, you know, it's something that you never, ever see. And, you know, you listen to some of our team principals sort of talk, and clearly all 10 of them were sort of aligned and supporting with the Project Pit Lane, the breathing aid and ventilator initiative. And they were talking, for the first time ever, they've had competitive teams in their uniforms in each other's factories.
Wow.
And, you know, these are places held in the highest regard, where actually that people are working tirelessly for that competitive edge, and yet you're essentially inviting your competitor into your space in order to solve a problem together.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Is there anything that I haven't asked you or mentioned that you would add to this incredible message that you're giving to us about an organization we would never have thought would have behaved in this way? Anything you want to tell us?
I think it genuinely comes down to the importance of the right people, and actually the mindset of your people within an organization. Because I think there'll be many surprises where you might not assume a brand or a company to react in the way that they have. But I think it comes down to having the right mix of people. And again, just being very, very clear on your sort of purpose and actually your strength as an organization. And certainly within sort of Formula One, there is a relentless energy to drive excellence in execution. And actually, Formula One is there to accelerate progress and to provide that sort of beacon of hope. And I think that actually, that's often potentially things that aren't associated with Formula One as a brand. And I think the more visible things are cars driving very, very fast. But at its core and its DNA, this is about accelerating progress through technology, innovation, and data, and the ability of man and machine to work together to push that.
Thank you. Well, I think there's a lot in that that's going to change for those of us who are listening to what you have to say, tilt and shift our idea of F1. And maybe it's tilted and shifted your own idea of yourselves as a result of having done this stuff differently.
Yeah, I think it's certainly been actually a huge shift. And I think we've all recognized, to your point, Tina, the increasing importance of community. I think the acts of kindness and generosity we've seen, and for me, certainly, sort of looking at our brand and how we sort of market and actually how we engage fans, I think these are really important sort of elements to see how do you continue to carry that through as we come out the other side into whatever our new normal might be. Because it's been refreshing to actually see those human characteristics come to the forefront during this time.
Ellie, thank you so much. I know that you may be working, well, I know that you are working from home, but I also know how incredibly busy you are. So just thanks for giving this time, and just thanks for telling us your story. It's amazing.
I've really enjoyed it, so thank you. And keep up all the amazing work you guys are doing, and stay well.
Thank you. Take care.